From melting glaciers to disappearing snow cover, shrinking sea ice, and rising sea level, scientists say it's all evidence of a rapidly warming planet.
We have uncovered information and a partial understanding of feedbacks in the climate system, specifically interactions between the ocean and the ice sheets. These feedbacks raise questions about how soon we will pass points of no return. Consequences include sea level rise of several meters, which we estimate could occur this century. That would mean loss of all coastal cities, most of the world's large cities, and all their history. A more immediate threat is the likelihood of shutting down the ocean's overturning circulations in the North Atlantic and Southern oceans. That's where superstorms come in.
That's how bad it is, folks. And I'll tell you how realistically bad it is. Miami, Florida, that's a long ways from either the South or the North Pole. But Miami, Florida, 2 years ago, were forced to put in $40 million in pumps in the Miami Beach area because on the regular high tide, every time they had a high tide starting a couple of years ago, it flooded 3, 4, 5 blocks into Miami Beach with normal high tides.
Coverage on the stormy weather continues now with CBS 4's Carrie Codd, who is live in Miami Beach, where the new water pumps are really getting put to the test. So, Carrie, how's it looking?
Cynthia, according to Miami Beach City officials, so far so good. Now, some residents have a different perspective on that, but I am standing in front of one of the construction sites here on Miami Beach, part of that $300 million project to install those pumps throughout the city.
This should have been done a long time ago.
This man named Andres is a longtime resident.
From what I see day to day, I don't see anything being done. You follow? And that goes all over Miami Beach. It's they need to start finishing stuff.
Last year, CBS Evening News spoke with Scott Robin, who's helping to manage the pump project.
After these pumps are installed, we won't see one drop of seawater on our streets. That's our goal.
On Miami Beach, folks are wondering why the pumps didn't work.
Lois, you may want to come down here.
Oh my God!
I know, about the water, right? Wow, cool!
And that's where we begin our team coverage with CBS 4's Vanessa Boers live on South Beach. Vanessa.
Rick, what a difference a day makes. 24 hours ago, most of this neighborhood in Sunset Harbor was underwater. It was flooded, except that right there is a water pump. It was installed to make sure what happened yesterday doesn't happen. There are 3 of them here at Sunset Harbor in Miami Beach. So why didn't those 3 pumps work? We spoke to a city official to find out.
The sudden downpour on Miami Beach Tuesday shut down power through the city, but the water pumps that are used to drain all that flooding were blown out too. That's because they don't have generators. Bobby Thacori is the owner of Taste Bakery on Alton and 13th.
We have drains over there, down there, and the water was pumping.
This is Pub Belly Sushi Restaurant. It's in Sunset Harbor off of Alton and 17th, an area known for its flood issues. That's why the city okayed 3 pumps installed here. But yesterday they shut down for 45 minutes because the storm blew out the power and the pumps don't have generators. The city, however, knew about the generator problem. They've been in talks since February to get 2 of them installed.
Hurricane Matthew came through last October. We realized that we had a need.
That was 6 months ago. The reason why they haven't been installed yet? Money. The city is trying to drop the $1 million price tag to $800,000. After yesterday's chaos, the mayor of Miami Beach, Philip Levine, released this statement in part. I have directed city staff to immediately pursue emergency procurement procedures to secure the generators to prevent future flooding as seen yesterday. But how long will that take? The earliest? 90 days. The sea level rise and flooding mitigation project began in the summer of 2014. Residents were promised the project would be done in 5 years. However, Miami Beach is 3 years in and only 15% done.
It's taking us a little bit longer than we originally anticipated.
There are only 13 pumps of 60 installed, but even when they are installed, Miami Beach may not stay afloat.
We got over 6 inches in 2 hours. we are designed to handle 7.5 inches over a 24-hour period.
The city says be patient for a very long time.
That, folks, literally is from the increase of the water coming from the melting of the north and south and the glaciers. That's how much water is being introduced. It's affecting, and the state of Florida has had to spend multi-millions of dollars in putting pumps to automatically control the water under regular high tides in Miami Beach. And that's, again, everything I say, you can look it up.
Greenland and Antarctica are beginning to melt because of global warming.
There is a real question as to the quality of the planet that we are going to be leaving our children and our grandchildren. So you are applying for a job as administrator for the EPA to protect our environment. Overwhelming majority of scientists say we have got to act boldly, and you're telling me that there needs to be more debate on this issue?
This fresh meltwater spilling out onto the North Atlantic and into the Southern Ocean already is having important effects. We conclude that light fresh water added to the upper layers of the ocean is already beginning to shut down North Atlantic deepwater formation.
No, Senator, as I've indicated, the climate is changing, and human activity.
But you haven't told me why you think the climate is changing.
Well, Senator, the job of the administrator is to carry out the statutes as passed by this body and to comply
Why is
with
the climate changing?
Senator, in response to the CO2 issue, the EPA administrator is constrained by statutes.
I'm asking your personal opinion.
My personal opinion is immaterial.
Really?
To the job of
you are going to be the head of the agency to protect the environment, and your personal feelings about whether climate change is caused by human activity and carbon emissions is immaterial?
Senator, I've acknowledged to you that the human activity impacts the climate.
Impacts.
Yes.
Scientific community doesn't tell us it impacts. They say it is the cause of climate change. We have to transform our energy system. Do you believe we have to transform our energy system in order to protect the planet for future generations?
I believe the EPA has a very important role at regulating the emissions.
You didn't
of
answer
CO2.
my question. Do you believe we have to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to do what the scientific community is telling us in order to make sure that this planet is healthy for our children and grandchildren?
Senator, I believe that the administrator has a very important role to perform in regulating CO2.
Can you tell me, as I think all of us know, Oklahoma has been subjected to a record-breaking number of earthquakes. Scientists in Oklahoma, or scientists say that Oklahoma is almost certain to have more earthquakes with heightened risk of a large quake probable to endure for a decade.
You look it up, find out, if what the meteor showers, the numbers of meteor storms and things of that, how many there are, look it up. Volcanic activity, look it up. 40, 50, 60 volcanoes are now actively blowing up every 30 or 60 days.
Senator, I've acknowledged that I'm concerned about...
You acknowledge that you are concerned. Your state is having a record number of... Well, if that's the kind of administrator for the EPA, your state's having a record-breaking number of earthquakes. You acknowledge you are concerned. If that's the kind of EPA administrator you will be, you're not going to get my vote.
Ocean core data show that deep water formation shut down. The North Atlantic cooled, and there's evidence of powerful superstorms at about that time, powerful enough for giant waves to toss 1,000-ton megaboulders onto the shore in the Bahamas. Some scientists think these boulders may have been tossed by a tsunami, but we present multiple lines of evidence that the boulders and other geologic features are best explained as the result of superstorms.
This extraordinary weather that we have watched now for the last 2 years, which includes freezing when it's not supposed to, floods. People are dying with huge floods in the middle of the United States. All right? So all of these things are happening, and I'm telling you now, the weather that we are used to, the normal weather in the globe, not just the United States, but around the globe, will never be the same again for 1,000 years.
When warming occurs driven by a growing climate forcing, the rate of ice melt will grow nonlinearly. We have reached a dangerous situation. We may be approaching a point of no return, a situation in which our children inherit a climate system undergoing changes that are out of their control, changes that will cause them irreparable harm. That's the bottom line.
It has started to change, and it's got nothing to do with too many smokestacks or not because cows are passing gas. It's none of that goofy stuff they introduced telling us about climate this and climate that. There's no question that it's changing, but the point is it's being affected by an external planetary intruder, Planet X or Nibiru or whatever, and we will not in our lifetime or your children's lifetime ever see the weather get back to what we would call normal cycle of seasons. It's not going to happen. It's going to be mixed up for the rest of 3 generations, at least, if not worse. 2 years ago, I said the next 2 years, which is the last 2 we've just passed through, all right, I said there will be huge effects on the planetary, on our planetary system. The planets will be starting to be closer. It is functioning a little bit like a bowling ball going into a bunch of pins way out in the outer space, but it's punching its way through what normally is a settled environment in our planetary structure. And as it punches through, it will be moving things in front of it and behind it and around it, so it will start causing effect like dropping a stone on the edge of a small pond. If you drop a stone in it, it's going to send ripples out all the way across to the other side and back again. And that's what it's already started. Now, what I said, for one thing, was that it would affect the planets. Now, as we look today, all of the planets are being affected by an unknown entity. Of course, this is stuff, you're not going to hear this on the news, period, end of story. And I will explain very simply why that's going to be. You will hear a little bit about it, like increases in meteors around the Earth, near and coming into, that's happening. The increase in volcanic activity is happening. We have more live volcanic actions than we've had in 100 years, all around the globe.
Beneath the ground of Yellowstone National Park lies a monster volcano that had its last super eruption over 630,000 years ago, and it could erupt again. The New York Times says that the supervolcano has the ability to spew 250 times more rock and ash than Mount St. Helens did in 1980 that killed 57 people. Researchers spent weeks collecting rock samples from the area known as Lava Creek Tuff, and found that after the volcano was injected with fresh magma, the last super eruption occurred much quicker than originally thought. Researcher from Arizona State University, Hannah Shamloo, said, "It's shocking how little time is required to take a volcanic system from being quiet and sitting there to the edge of an eruption. The scientists are hoping to use further research to spot future super eruptions that could happen."
We have the melting of the ice caps, both top and bottom. Now, here's what's going to happen, and by the way, and let me explain to you part of it. There's and those of you that are scientifically oriented, you're going to know this. It's old stuff, but for the rest of my friends out there that just haven't studied this, you may not realize this. There are huge circular, actually it's more like a figure 8 in the, I want to just talk about the East Coast right now, but from the North Pole down in the middle of the eastern Atlantic Ocean, there is a figure 8 of the water currents going all the way from as far north as above Alaska, the North Pole area, down and circling in a huge underwater circle or a figure 8 goes down all the way down to the Miami area where it's warm water. All right? And what happens normally, you have a certain amount of salt content. The salinity of the water itself has a specific amount. So it doesn't change much. This figure 8 underneath in the middle of the ocean, going all the way from the northern part of the, like I said, almost Alaska down to, or in Alaska, that's the west coast, but from the northern part above Maine and all up there in Canada, coming all the way down and down as far as Miami and back up. This huge figure 8 under the water. That's what constitutes the seasonal changes and the growth of normal storms. So your hurricanes and your storms and your northeasters during the winter and the bad hurricanes during hurricane season in the warmer weather, warmer water and all of that, that's pretty much on a regular schedule. But what's happening now with the melting of these glaciers, it is changing the percentage of salt, the salinity content, and that's going to completely booger up all of what we call the constant hurricane change at the weather period of time when we're going to anticipate this storm or the northeasters and all of that. That's going to be all thrown in the trash. It's already happened because the salinity content is now being altered, and that's what's going on. And it's all part of that glacier melt. The problem is this. They don't know for sure. We will know this time when it comes because we have the ability to track these things now that we never had. The last time may have been 300 or 1,000 years ago. Obviously, there wasn't what we have now to keep track of it. In terms of direction of where it may be coming from, if you put your arm out on the side of your from your body straight out to the right or the left, all right, and that would represent the plane of the ecliptic. That's the plane on which all of the planets circle and do their orbital thing around the sun, including the Earth and Venus planet, Pluto out the farthest, and et cetera, Mercury and all of them, pretty much give or take a few million miles up and down if you have your arm straight out. Now, if you put your arm down about half to your body, half of the way down, that would represent about a 30 or a 60 degree, 45 degree inclination off of that. Now, the planet X NIBIRU may be coming in on a 30 to 45 degree angle on its own orbital direction. And so it would be coming from the basement up towards the ceiling of your home on that 30 degree angle. And so it would not necessarily be coming straight in at us from our planetary plane of the ecliptic. Now, none of the photographs that you're seeing randomly around, people seeing it and they want to know it, they see a big ball out there and they photographed it and it looks like Nibiru. That's not it. That's not going to happen, folks. By the time it gets that close, we're going to be flying apart. The waters are going to be yanked out of the ocean beds, and we're going to be just devastated.